The room fell silent before Princess Anne said a single word. In her hands was a private agreement carrying two unmistakable signatures, one belonging to Queen Camilla, the other to Meghan. It promised access, influence, and protection far beyond anything the royal family had approved. Charles stared at the final page in disbelief, while William slowly rose from his chair. Anne had not uncovered a harmless arrangement. She had uncovered a pact capable of dividing the crown from within. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Anne stepped into the emergency meeting at Buckingham Palace and laid a sealed navy folder on the table. The palace, the monarch's official home and working headquarters, had contained many private crises, but this document had been recovered from an office linked to Camilla's charitable household. It had been prepared, stored, and protected inside royal machinery. Charles opened the agreement and read it twice. Then the king set it down without speaking. The deal gave Meghan influence over selected royal charities, access to confidential family planning discussions, and protection from palace restrictions in exchange for support from the Sussex camp. Royal charities are organizations connected to family members and public causes, so influence over them meant leverage over money, reputation, and loyalty. William pushed back his chair and demanded to know whether Catherine's projects were included. He asked whether the future duties of George, Charlotte, and Louis had been discussed without their parents' consent. Camilla looked away. She offered no denial, and that silence struck the prince harder than a confession. Anne opened the folder and pointed to a continuity clause. The term meant a provision keeping an agreement active after leadership changed. In plain terms, the pact could survive Charles's reign and reach into William's future authority. A handwritten edition promised Meghan consultation rights during any restructuring of the royal foundations, the bodies organizing major charitable work under royal names. Camilla reached for the pages, but Anne pulled them back. "Did you sign this knowing what it would do?" she asked. The queen consort froze as Charles searched her face for an answer. None came. Then the monarch asked the question that exposed the deeper danger. How long had the two women been working together? And who else had already agreed to help them? William understood that every name could widen the betrayal and deepen the coming rupture. But the signatures were only the beginning, because behind that agreement stood two women driven by very different wounds, and one royal family about to discover how deeply those wounds had shaped the betrayal. Meghan and Camilla had never appeared to be natural allies. One had walked away from royal life claiming she could no longer survive inside it. The other had spent decades fighting to secure her place at its very center. Yet beneath their differences lay a shared resentment. Both believed the palace had judged them, restricted them, and allowed Catherine to become the symbol of everything they had been denied. Their secret deal was not born from friendship, it was born from mutual need. Camilla sat alone after the meeting, staring at a photograph of Charles as the truth closed around her. She feared William's eventual reign would shrink her role, separate her household from central royal work, and transfer valued patronages to Catherine, Anne, and Sophie. A patronage is an official link between a royal and a charity, so losing one meant losing influence and purpose. The queen consort had spent years earning acceptance. Now one agreement threatened that fragile trust. Meghan felt the danger. In California, she received an encrypted message confirming that Anne had found the document. The protected message, sent through a secure channel, told her the palace was tracing every clause. Surprise lasted seconds. Anger replaced it as she realized Camilla could no longer shield her, and her route back into royal influence was collapsing. The pact offered Meghan what full-time service no longer could: influence without obedience. She could recommend advisors to a global charitable council carrying royal branding, meaning an organization using the family's name and authority. That council would shape international campaigns while sitting partly beyond William's control. For the Duchess, it meant power without returning to Britain. For the future king, it meant an outside network beside his household. Camilla had been promised something equally dangerous. Whenever palace officials tried to reduce her reach, Meghan's team would coordinate public support and present the restriction as cruelty rather than constitutional housekeeping. the administrative work keeping royal roles within proper limits. The arrangement turned private insecurity into public pressure. It also gave both women reasons to protect each other. Charles entered the room without aids and closed the door. He asked whether she trusted Meghan more than she trusted him. Camilla whispered that she had been protecting her future. The king looked at her before answering. "You endangered theirs." Neither moved. Neither could soften what had been said. Anne had followed the paper trail toward a private meeting held months earlier, when resentment became planning and planning became betrayal. To understand why the agreement existed, the family would have to return to one cold evening at Windsor, when a private conversation crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Every royal crisis has a moment that appears harmless, until history looks back and recognizes the point of no return. This one began during a private dinner at Windsor, after the public rooms had emptied and the household believed the evening was over. Camilla remained behind with a secure tablet placed beside her glass. At precisely 10:17 p.m., an overseas call connected. Meghan's face appeared on the screen, and within 20 minutes, resentment had become strategy. Camilla had just learned that 3 of her preferred initiatives would be transferred to Catherine and Sophie the following year. A royal initiative is a formal cause or project supported through palace influence, so losing 3 at once meant more than a lighter diary. It meant shrinking authority, fading relevance, and a future shaped by others. The Queen Consort dismissed her staff and accepted a private video call arranged through an advisor once linked to a Sussex communications consultant. Meghan spoke first. She warned that the palace would praise Camilla in public while quietly removing everything that gave her power. The words cut deeply because they matched the fear she had refused to name. Camilla admitted she dreaded becoming ceremonial and irrelevant. Meghan answered that she understood public pressure, but lacked access, while the monarch's wife possessed access, but was losing public leverage. That recognition changed the conversation. They were not united by trust, they were united by insecurity. Meghan then proposed a shared survival arrangement. Camilla would preserve channels into royal charities, while she would use international media influence to challenge any attempt to isolate the Queen. A royal charity is an organization supported by the family's name and public standing, which meant control over those channels could shape money, messaging, and reputation. The first draft was prepared that night. It was later disguised as a philanthropic cooperation memorandum, a formal-looking document describing charitable collaboration, allowing it to circulate without immediate suspicion. The language sounded harmless. The intention was not. Camilla lifted a small card containing Catherine's new patronage schedule, turned it face down, and looked toward the screen. "Then we protect ourselves," she told Meghan. The call ended, but the alliance had begun. Anne later found the Windsor contact recorded in a security access log, a record showing when protected palace systems were used. That single entry gave her the proof she needed, proving the call was not a rumor, but the beginning of a deliberate operation hidden from the wider royal household. When Anne walked into the next family meeting, with the call log in one hand and the signed pact in the other, secrecy gave way to confrontation, and Camilla could no longer hide behind silence. Every royal crisis has a moment that appears harmless, until history looks back and recognizes the point of no return. This one began during a private dinner at Windsor, after the public rooms had emptied and the household believed the evening was over. Camilla remained behind, with a secure tablet placed beside her glass. At precisely 10:17 p.m., an overseas call connected. Meghan's face appeared on the screen, and within 20 minutes, resentment had become strategy. Camilla had just learned that 3 causes she treasured would pass to Catherine and Sophie the following year. The decision cut deeper than a change of schedule. A royal initiative is a formal cause supported through palace influence, and losing 3 at once meant losing public purpose, trusted staff, and the power to shape where attention and money would go. The Queen Consort felt the walls closing in. She dismissed the remaining staff and accepted a private video call arranged by an advisor once connected to a Sussex-linked communications consultant. Meghan spoke with painful precision. The palace, she warned, would praise Camilla in public while quietly removing every source of influence behind closed doors. The words landed because they echoed the fear she had hidden even from Charles. Camilla admitted she dreaded becoming ceremonial and irrelevant. Meghan answered that she understood public pressure but lacked access, while the monarch's wife still had access but was losing leverage. That single contrast changed everything. They were not building friendship, they were building protection. Meghan proposed the bargain, in a recorded conversation, preserved through the palace security system. Camilla would keep channels open inside royal charities, while she would use international media pressure to challenge any move against the Queen. A royal charity is an organization strengthened by the family's name, so influence over those channels could shape funding, reputation, and public loyalty. The first draft was prepared that night. It was disguised as a philanthropic cooperation memorandum, a formal document that made private coordination look like harmless charitable planning. Its language sounded careful. Its purpose was not. Camilla lifted a card showing Catherine's new patronage schedule, turned it face down, and looked back at Meghan. "Then we protect ourselves," she said. The call ended, but the alliance had begun. Anne later found the Windsor connection inside a security access log, the official record showing when protected palace systems were used. That entry gave her the proof she needed, and the family would soon hear the entire recording. When Anne walked into the next family meeting with the call log in one hand and the signed pact in the other, secrecy gave way to confrontation, and Camilla could no longer hide behind silence. The most dangerous part of the agreement was not its secrecy, it was its patience. Buried beneath charitable language was a mechanism designed to survive changes in leadership, household authority, and even the reign itself. Anne understood immediately what that meant. William could inherit the crown and still find decisions waiting for him that had been made without his knowledge. The document did not merely protect Camilla and Meghan in the present. It attempted to reach into the monarchy's future. Anne summoned trustees, senior courtiers, and foundation administrators. Trustees are people legally responsible for protecting a charity's money and purpose, while courtiers are senior staff managing royal duties. She demanded to know which parts of the pact had shaped appointments, funding, and public strategy. Every answer carried another risk. William felt trapped as the review widened. If the prince attacked the agreement too fiercely, critics could portray him as punishing his stepmother and his brother's wife. Yet silence would leave hidden decisions inside his future reign. The crown could pass to him while promises remained active beneath it. Charles faced a crueler choice. The king wanted to protect Camilla from public disgrace, but he could not force his son to inherit obligations created in secret. She had sought security, yet her actions placed the monarch between his marriage and the institution he had sworn to defend. One trustee confirmed that a preliminary council had already formed. A council is a group created to guide decisions, and this one included 2 advisors linked to Meghan's international projects. Several board members had entered through networks loyal to Camilla's household, giving the alliance influence before William knew it existed. Anne then uncovered the financial proposal. Millions had been reserved for a global initiative, whose leadership would be nominated jointly by Camilla's office and Meghan's representatives. Royal branding would give the project public trust, while divided control could place its message beyond the future king's reach. Charles sat before the financial summary and removed his glasses. He asked the secretary whether royal money had already moved. The answer came quietly. An initial payment had been authorized. His expression hardened. Camilla's private fear had become financial reality, and Meghan's influence was no longer theoretical. Anne ordered every transaction frozen. The Princess Royal, the title traditionally held by the monarch's senior daughter, used that authority to stop the machinery before it advanced further. But the freeze reached California within minutes, and Meghan refused to watch the agreement collapse without resistance. The freeze protected the foundations for the moment, yet it also sent a clear message across the Atlantic, and Meghan's answer would turn a private royal fracture into an international confrontation. The consequences arrived before the palace could control them. Within hours of Anne freezing the agreement, Meghan demanded an explanation through her legal and communications team, while Camilla discovered that her access to several foundation briefings had been suspended. The alliance that had promised protection now left both women exposed. One was thousands of miles away, furious that her route back to influence had collapsed. The other remained inside the palace, surrounded by people who no longer trusted her. Anne moved first, She temporarily removed Camilla's office from every meeting involving the charities named in the agreement until the review was complete. A foundation briefing is a private update about money, staff, and future plans, so losing access meant losing the ability to shape decisions before they became final. For the Queen Consort, the punishment was immediate and deeply personal. Camilla entered her morning office and stopped. The folder normally waiting on her desk was gone. She asked an aide where it had been taken. The answer came softly but landed with force. The Princess Royal has restricted circulation. That title belongs to the monarch's senior daughter, and in this moment it carried real authority. The Queen understood that Anne had not issued a warning. She had drawn a boundary. Meghan answered with pressure. Her legal and communications team sent a formal message, insisting the pact was a legitimate private philanthropic partnership, meaning a charitable arrangement between independent parties. The statement warned the palace against presenting it as a hidden power grab. But behind the careful language, anger was building. Meghan called Camilla directly. She accused her of failing to protect the agreement and allowing Anne to dismantle it without resistance. Camilla, exhausted and frightened, replied that Meghan had underestimated the princess and placed them both in danger. The words ended any illusion that their alliance was built on trust. Then Meghan revealed her leverage. She had kept copies of messages in which Camilla criticized William's plans and questioned Catherine's growing authority. The records meant the pact could die while the scandal survived. If released, they could humiliate the Queen and wound Charles at the same time. Camilla dropped the phone onto the sofa and covered her face. Charles entered moments later and asked what had happened. She looked up and admitted that Meghan had saved everything. The king said nothing. He turned, left the room, and went to find William alone. For the first time, the king stopped asking how to protect Camilla from the consequences, and began asking William what must be done to protect the family from the deal itself. There were no officials in the room when Charles met William that evening. No folders, no lawyers, no carefully prepared palace language. Only a father and son confronting the cost of a betrayal neither could ignore. Charles admitted that defending Camilla unconditionally would endanger William's future authority. Yet abandoning her would expose the deepest weakness of his reign. William did not demand punishment. He asked for one promise, that the next generation would never inherit this secret arrangement. Charles invited his son into the private study after the household had fallen quiet. The king wanted no advisors nearby, because advisors speak for institutions, while this conversation had to belong to a father and son. A sovereign is the reigning monarch, and an heir is the person expected to inherit the crown. Tonight, neither title could protect them from the pain between them. William proposed a break. He wanted the agreement dissolved, the affected boards rebuilt, and charities protected from becoming a weapon in personal royal disputes. The prince knew those organizations carried trust, so allowing private grudges to shape them would damage more than reputations. It would damage the causes depending on royal support. Charles admitted he felt deceived by Camilla, yet he also blamed himself for allowing her fear of losing influence to deepen in silence. The monarch understood that insecurity did not excuse betrayal, but it explained why she had reached for outside protection. William listened, then confessed that his deepest anger came from seeing Catherine and the children treated as obstacles inside a negotiation they never knew existed. The king then revealed the settlement. Camilla had agreed to surrender operational influence over the disputed foundations, meaning she would no longer direct their staffing, money, or planning. In return, the palace would not publicly accuse her of deliberate sabotage. She would keep her dignity, but not the authority she had tried to secure. William accepted only one condition. Meghan's consultation rights had to be cancelled completely and permanently. No replacement pact, no hidden council, no private route back into royal decisions. Charles picked up a pen and signed the dissolution order, the formal instruction ending the agreement. He passed it across the desk. Neither man spoke until William placed his hand over his father's, acknowledging both the decision and the suffering behind it. The pact was finished inside the palace, but fragments had already escaped beyond its walls. By morning, one photograph would define who had protected the crown and who had endangered it. By midnight, the secret pact was dead inside the palace. But beyond its gates, the first headlines were already turning a private act of survival into a public royal reckoning. At dawn, the crisis escaped the palace. Newspaper vans stopped outside Buckingham's gates, broadcasters interrupted their schedules, and crowds began gathering beneath the royal balcony. Yet one image captured the national mood more powerfully than any speech. Anne leaving the palace, with the navy folder held tightly against her side, while Camilla watched from an upstairs window. It was the picture of duty confronting secrecy, and by breakfast, it appeared across Britain beneath one devastating headline. Anne had become the face of the response before the palace issued a single sentence. Officials confirmed that the unauthorized charitable agreement had been dissolved, and that she would oversee an independent restructuring of the affected foundations. A restructuring means rebuilding leadership, rules, and control, so the same abuse cannot happen again. That mattered, because royal charities depend on public trust, and any hidden influence could damage both their money and their purpose. The palace avoided listing every disputed clause, but its message was unmistakable. No external household would hold authority over royal charitable decisions. William's future role remained protected, and Catherine's projects could no longer be pulled into private bargaining. The announcement gave the public a clear line between service and manipulation. Camilla watched broadcasters discuss her damaged position, while Charles prepared the final statement elsewhere. The Queen remained silent, knowing every hour of coverage weakened the place she had fought decades to secure. The King understood that defending her now could look like defending the pact itself. Meghan saw the same coverage in California. She realized the palace had framed Anne as the defender of institutional integrity, meaning the duty to protect the monarchy's rules rather than personal loyalties. The Duchess had little room left to present herself as the injured party. The Daily Chronicle printed Anne's departure photograph beneath the headline, "The Pact That Could Have Divided the Crown." Outside Buckingham Palace, the crowd applauded when a presenter announced that William's authority and Catherine's charities were free from the agreement. A royal historian then delivered the sentence replayed throughout the day. Anne did not expose a family disagreement. She stopped a private alliance from becoming a parallel court. A parallel court means a rival center of influence operating beside the official royal household. Anne heard the applause from inside the palace, but she showed no triumph. For her, the victory meant nothing unless Charles finally imposed consequences on everyone involved. Public judgment had hardened. Charles now faced one final duty: close the crisis without hiding the betrayal. The nation had already chosen its symbol in Anne, but only the king could close the crisis, and his final decision would determine whether the family emerged broken or rebuilt. The crisis ended not with cheers, but with the sound of paper passing through a secure palace shredder. Charles stood beside Anne and William as the original agreement was destroyed under legal supervision. Camilla remained in a nearby room, stripped of the authority she had tried to preserve. Meghan's promised influence disappeared, with the final signature canceling every clause. The monarchy survived, but survival demanded a painful truth. Loyalty could no longer be assumed simply because someone stood close to the crown. Charles dissolved the agreement, canceled the Global Council, reversed the funding authorization, and removed every continuity clause tied to future reigns. A continuity clause is a rule designed to remain active after leadership changes, so removing it protected William from inheriting decisions made behind his back. The king had ended both the pact and its reach. Anne received temporary oversight of the affected charities, while William and Catherine gained final approval over any structure intended to survive into their future leadership. Oversight means authority to review decisions, money, and appointments. That safeguard mattered because public causes could never again become private weapons. Camilla met Charles alone and apologized for allowing fear of irrelevance to become disloyalty. The Queen admitted she had confused protection with control. He accepted her apology as a husband, but the monarch refused to restore the authority she surrendered. She would remain beside him, yet no longer command the foundations touched by the deal. Meghan received notice that she would hold no advisory, consultation, or nomination rights within royal charities. The documented order closed every route back into palace influence. She could not revive the pact through another council, another memorandum, or another hidden promise. Anne's intervention proved the agreement had advanced far enough to threaten funding, public messaging, succession-era authority, and trust between the households. Charles acknowledged that outside criticism had never been the monarchy's greatest danger. The deeper threat came from private choices made without accountability and disguised as survival. Anne watched the final page disappear. William asked whether it was truly finished. She answered, "The agreement is finished. The lesson must remain. The family survived because it chose transparency over private loyalty. Camilla kept her place but lost secret power. Meghan's route back closed. William's future stood protected. Catherine's work remained independent. And Anne emerged as the guardian who acted when silence would have been easier. The doors of the palace close on a family permanently changed, but the verdict is complete. Anne's courage broke the secret pact, protected the next generation, and reminded the monarchy that duty must always stand above fear. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.